Here with Seth Rogen. I'm just kidding. With Jeff Klubeck. He is a world-class coach. He is an expert author, sales coach. You're not going to want to miss this. So welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely.
All right.
So what is Get A Klu? Tell us about that.
Get A Klu, it started off as, in high school, I wanted to, do you want to go deeper, right? It's like, hey, subconsciously we make fun of ourselves first before anybody else gets the chance to.
And
it disarms them.
With KLU, which is a spin off your last name.
KLU, Klubeck, right? So instead of getting clueless or, I thought I would come up with Get A Klu and just own it and kind of protects me from being picked on as a kid. But then in high school, I learned what an editorial was. I was a sports writer for the newspaper, and I'm like, well, what's the editorial page? And opinions. I'm like, wait, we get to write opinions? Yeah. What if we do that on the sports page? Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I'll write an article called Get A Klu. I'll just bag on somebody, create some controversy, and more people will read the paper than would have otherwise, and then we'll go sell advertising. So that's how it started. But then fast forward, however, 20 years later, 15 years ago or so, I formed Get A Klu as a C Corp so that I could start marketing myself as a coach, consultant, trainer, soft skill guy.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So Get A Klu is kind of the title of your book, right?
Yeah, well, it's the title of my C Corp, my corporation. So everything I've done in personal, professional, it's my brand. It's a brand, and I'm transitioning out of it. Actually, it's always going to exist. It's always going to live. But the new brand that I'm really excited about, you may ask me later, is called The Integrity Game. Yeah. But yeah, I did. My first self-published book was called Get A Klu in 52. It's a 52-tip book. It's got these 5 categories: accountability, sales, marketing, networking, and communication. Broad brushstrokes, but in my flavor, the way I deliver it. My background is I've got a master's in communication. I'm a retired adjunct professor of communication. So I used to teach public speaking and have to get people past the fear and get them to finish what they started. And it was a beautiful blend when I learned structured personal professional growth. I was a better professor and I'm a better speaker trainer because, they complement each other. So Get A Klu in 52. It's been out for a couple years now. And then we've got the new edition is right here. It's the Entrepreneur Edition. So the second one has 5 categories, all related to being an entrepreneur.
Right.
So those categories are personal branding, business acumen, business ownership, leadership and influence, and then work-life balance. And I'm sure as an entrepreneur.
Are so important, man.
Yeah.
And like a lot of our viewers, listeners are mortgage brokers. And they might have a team, so they're entrepreneurs in some sense. They're selling mortgage products, but they're also, business owners. They're trying to build team. They have to do their own marketing. They have to do their own, payroll. So they're somewhat of an entrepreneur, right? Because
they're totally an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I mean, they're not creating like a new product, or they're not creating a new, avenue for business, but they're definitely entrepreneurs. They're business owners.
Yeah, right? I don't think you have to have like an invention or something like that. By definition, you either buy, inherit, acquire a business. You're an entrepreneur.
You're an entrepreneur.
So there's different flavors of entrepreneurs, of course, and how people come. There's serial entrepreneurs, and there's entrepreneurs by inheritance, and some people, mom and dad had the business, and congratulations, you have the business now.
You have to be an entrepreneur.
So there's different levels of acumen or incentive or engagement in the entrepreneurial identity. So brokers are definitely entrepreneurs. What's funny is their initials are in every box on their org chart until they learn how to delegate, scale, hire, delegate, on all of that stuff. So I would never, ever suggest that a broker is not a business, totally a business.
Yeah, no, I agree. I remember one podcast I had, this guy was like, mortgage brokers are not entrepreneurs. And he's a smart guy, and I was like, I don't know if I agree with you. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, you know what he meant. Yeah,
I know what you meant.
Right.
Because he's their business, they're self-employed, they're business owners. But I'm an entrepreneur. I know it, and I started a mortgage company, so I disagreed with him. But anyway,
the more successful you get as an entrepreneur, the more accountable you are to others, institutions or people. Right. So a broker has less accountability than a traditional entrepreneur, the way we look it up or research a definition, right? Somebody that's got a board, somebody that's got they've got investors, or they've got a loan, or they've got whatever the case may be. If you grow a company to 100 people, you have way more accountability than a broker. Right. It's got a bunch of independent contractors.
Yeah, because you could be a loan ranger, just like you and your loans. And I have friends that crush it, that they only want to deal with them, their own loans, maybe one processor, and they're just tired of dealing with all the whining and the headaches that come with staff and people. I mean,
it's a wise choice for some people, because some people are way better at originating than they are administrating.
Absolutely.
When you get down to breaking down, now anybody can be successful at sales or originating, 100%. And anybody can be successful at administrating. But there's some people that are cut out for it naturally, instinctively. When we talk about behavioral styles, before we started, you were asking about strengths finders and different assessments that we can run to really understand what's the best foot forward that people need to put forward to succeed in their jobs. And like brokers, some brokers are analytical.
Yeah.
So they're going to have all the admin down. And some brokers, they're really great at originating, and they got so good they create a business.
They got the gift of gab.
Well, they got so good now they got to create a business.
Right.
But they don't like all that administrative stuff. So the key thing about being an entrepreneur is nobody succeeds alone, and you got to find good help.
You have to have a good team. Let's talk about how important it is to speak well, because we all admire people who speak well. They can get up, they can make a toast, they can, talk to anyone, they can give speeches, they can give presentations.
Yeah.
When you see someone like that, you're like, man, I wish I had that, right? And some people, it may come naturally, but it's a lot of people, it's learned, it takes practice, it takes discipline, it takes all that stuff. Like, tell us about kind of what your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, what comes to mind is I'll pull one. The integrity game I mentioned is a 10-point model, so I'll lean on one of them, gifts. When you arrive at a place where you speak well, or you're admired for speaking well, you're a gift to your audience. Okay. Prior to that, though, you might be given God-given gifts, like a gift of gab, like a disposition, a behavioral style instinctually that lends yourself to a quick processor, and I can see what I'm thinking, and I can quickly encode my thoughts into words, right? So that type of ability would be God-given. But then we talk about self-made. What are you doing to cultivate, optimize, etc.? So if a lot of people can wing it, they could just get up on the fly, and they have a gregarious,
booming voice, and they're funny.
Any of that, my money is on the people that invest in those gifts by working hard and developing. So now you can get really good by having a curriculum. When people want to get good at speaking, they focus on the speaking, or they focus on the moment I'm on stage. What am I going to wear? What do I do with my hands? What color looks good in this lighting?
Right.
Forget all of that, right? Like, you have to be 100% about your audience. You have to know that you can inform them, persuade them, entertain them, the basic purposes of speaking. But a lot of us, ourselves and your listeners, have a subject matter expertise. They have an acumen. They have some sort of professional equity. Most people have gotten good at doing something. And then for those of you that haven't, decide what you want to get good at.
Right.
And then what's the curriculum of that? Great question I ask people when I'm coaching, especially those that want to be good speakers. But usually when you do the work to become a good speaker, now you can become a good trainer.
Yep.
You could create courses out of your stuff. If you have your curriculum, your outline, what's the content that people get when they interact with me? And then that you could repurpose that, whether it's speaking or training or books, etc.
And you can also funnel that just into sales, right? Like, when you talk
100%.
to someone, if they have a confidence, if they have, if they're speaking well, then people will listen a little bit more. People might like you more for some reason, and I think, for us, it's like, how do we just get better at sales? Like every day, right? Like, how do we get in? And I think speaking is one of those key things in sales that you need to be good at. I
don't think there's any better way to grow a business, whether it's sales or the business itself, or to be of influence in any way, shape, or form, than speaking. I think it's the number one way to get interest in all of that. And you're going to be more excited to speak. See, when I used to teach public speaking as a professor, all the students would say, I don't know what to talk about. I don't know what to talk about. What should I do my speech on? What should I do my speech on? It's like, no. You could pick a topic. You're afraid of doing the work to prepare.
Right.
People are worried about being that moment. But what they're really afraid of is the preparation. And what I'm trying to communicate here is, if you know what your curriculum is, if I know 10 points, I've got 10 points, and I know how to go deep, I know how to go wide on those 10 points. Anytime I'm asked to speak, I can pull from that. I can pull from my curriculum and be conversant.
And you said SME, or
subject matter expert.
And that's something that, that's a great tip, is like, have 10 things you really know well. Maybe write them down, memorize them.
Create a curriculum.
Yeah. And then you can, like you said, pull from that anytime you're on the phone. If you're on a sales call and someone brings something up, you should maybe know that objective or objection stop, or kind of like how to overcome that. Because there's probably, like, especially with mortgage sales, there's got to be, there's 10 at least, but there's probably 5 hot ones that, are always coming up. Like the rate, or the, I have the lowest rate. The
usual suspects?
Yeah.
Or the frequently asked questions versions of. And now here's the thing. I'm a big mindset and communication guy, wordsmithing. So I'll tell you right now, I never call it an objection.
Yeah.
Right? An object. immovable object. I object, like halt.
Right.
I don't call it that because now I think it's like this big concrete material thing that I'm not going to be able to get through. What I call it is a concern.
I like that.
If I call it a concern, now I instinctually want to address it.
Yeah.
But if it's an objection, I want to crush it, squash it,
battle,
kill it.
right?
Yeah, I don't want to feel that way when I'm doing sales. I don't want to feel that way when I'm trying to solve somebody's problem. I don't want to feel adversarial with them. I want to feel like, hey, I'm here. And then you can get into the techniques. Like, I understand this is one of your concerns. Are there any other concerns of yours that I would need to address prior to moving forward with this deal?
Yeah. No, I like that's huge. It's great.
Like I either can address your concerns or I cannot. But if I address them all, we'll move forward, right?
Right. Yeah, that's good. So we'll expand on that, I think, more.
Sure.
But I'm curious. You said you were a professor.
Yes.
And then you became a coach. How was that transition? And kind of what made you do that, or what?
Yeah, great. First of all, transition, gas pedal clutch. Have you ever driven a stick shift car?
Yep,
you can't press down on both and you can't let off of both.
Right.
You have to slowly press down on one as you're letting off on the other. And that's where a lot of coaches out there struggle. I heard a statistic, almost a decade ago, and it's probably still close to true, that 90% of everybody that calls themselves a coach makes less than $40,000 a year as a coach. So just real quick, in the coaching industry, you need to have other sources of income, or you need to have a gas pedal clutch situation where you could slowly let off of one and let down off the other, right? Unless you're coming into coaching from like corporate. Let's say you've been in corporate for 20 years.
Yep.
You've got all this equity, you got all this stock, you've got a little nest egg, you've got a runway to build your business. But people that are starting with not a lot of money in the bank, right? I recommend you have some other source of income, a spouse that's got a stabilizer or so I didn't make a lot of money when I taught, because I would get this I would get this envelope once a month with a bunch of peanuts in it, for teaching, right?
Yeah.
But it was still something, it was stable, and what more important than the money was the identity of Professor Klubeck, which made me better as a coach, consultant, trainer. And then I was a better professor because I was bringing all of the personal professional growth modules into the classroom. So there was an overlap.
That's good. Yeah.
But then once I got in demand, when I created my curriculum for coaching, started doing coaches training and teaching other coaches how to coach and build businesses coaching, making money as a coach, I got recruited to go around the world. I got assignments in 12 different countries, 4 continents. Nice. And I couldn't be in the classroom when I was traveling around the world. So I retired in 2017, almost 5 years now.
Wow.
And I've just been focused on Get A Klu and personal professional growth and soft skill development and writing books and all
traveling
of that.
is great, man. So you got to speak. Did you have interpreters in this other countries?
No. English speaking countries.
All English.
Yeah, it was all. I never had
Australia, England.
Yeah, it's the funny thing about Australia. I'll never forget. The first time I was in, are you ready? Melbourne, right?
Melbourne.
But they say Melbourne, right? So I got up, like I'm looking at the audience, I'm looking at the crowd, and like I want to get that right away. I wasn't the featured speaker. I was like a guy that had to like fill time, and like I had about an hour and a half or something. I said, hey, everybody, I'm so excited here to be, I'm so excited to be in front of you or whatever. I said, I'm so excited to be in Melbourne, but don't worry, 2 days from now, I'll be leaving Melbourne and we'll all be sad. And they just laughed right away. They appreciated it. And then right there. What I love about Australia is they get upset if you don't cuss. Sometimes you're like, oh, I'm sorry if I use a bad word every now and then. They're like, are you kidding? They're letting you have it. Talk about breaking ice. They
loved,
Australia.
Right?
I was on Australia like maybe 14, 15 times in less than 2 years. I love Australia. It was Perth and Sydney and Gold Coast, Coolangatta and Melbourne. A lot of friends still in Australia. So if anybody's listening, I love it down under.
Hello, Australia.
But it's English speaking. It's English speaking. In Europe, Amsterdam, Germany, Belgium. Most of those countries
like speak 4 languages, and you're like, oh, we suck.
Yeah,
Americans only speaking one.
We do. We suck.
Were you an effective communicator, like always as a professor, or were you like something you had to work at?
Yeah, it's in the eye of the beholder.
Okay.
And this is not just for me because I'm a professor. I have a master's degree in communication or any of my experience, right? Communication is receiver based. So it doesn't matter what I think about my own communication. What matters is what people get, right? And this is like one of the conversations I have. Like I'm a baseball dad, and I've got baseball dads that I hang out and drink beers with after baseball games, right? But here I am I'm a master's in communication, 20 years experience teaching people public speaking and nonverbal and persuasion and critical thinking, and people pay me hundreds and thousands of dollars to talk to me.
Right. So
but that's my level of understanding. I'm bringing into the baseball dad conversation of the beer, and they just don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
So am I an effective communicator if I'm just speaking?
Depends on where you are.
It's in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah.
So it's very important to understand audience. It's so same thing with the public speaking question. It's not about me and what I'm saying. It's about what my audience is and who's my audience. What do they need?
Yeah.
If I can stay focused on that, I'm going to be more effective than if I'm focused on me.
And that's also, translates right into sales. Like when you're talking to one type of person versus another.
Yes.
Like it's key, right? To know that you have to be in tune with that, and that comes with the emotional intelligence, right? And all those things.
Or behavioral assessments,
Yeah.
right? Back to your question earlier, public speaking. If I haven't met anybody that I'm dealing with and I want to sell to all of them, and I'm speaking at the front of the room and there are like 40 people in a first-time home buyer seminar, or, get ahead through a real estate investing seminar, or a half day, one day, whatever it is, I know that from the front of the room, I have to tell stories and, elicit emotion for my right brainers. And I also know that I need some charts and some statistics and some data for my left brainers.
Right. So not leave them out.
And there's tons of marketing acumen that's out there where marketing messaging and the words of sales letters or ads are constructed based on what we know about differences in behavioral styles. So when you say, well, different message for different people. Sure. The salesperson that has a one-size-fits-all approach is doomed.
Right. You mentioned doing like seminars. Like so right now, this is a crazy time in the market. Rates are up. People need, a lot of brokers need to get more into non-QM because it's less rate sensitive.
Now, slow down. Say that again.
Non-QM, which is like it's a different side of the mortgage business. Okay. It's more geared towards entrepreneurs, self-employed people.
Oh, right. That's the big thing.
Bank statement loans.
Because it's part of the Great Resignation, right? It's always been hard for a self-employed person to get a loan, but now there's so many self-employed people that want to take advantage of what's happening in the market, but they left their job because of COVID. Now what? Do I still qualify for a loan? What's happening? Tell me about it.
Yeah, so the non-QM is going to double this year as far as the volume of loans. And a lot of our listeners would really have a massive advantage if they could go do seminars, teach people, like teach realtors, teach first-time home buyers that are self-employed, maybe go to a self-employed conference or an entrepreneur conference, and then, present about, this type of loan product that it exists. Basically what it is, in other words, is banks and lenders, traditional lenders, right? The Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, the government loans, they all require this thing called ability to repay, and they have to use pay stubs, W-2s, tax returns. That's like the key thing, right? Everyone knows. With non-QM, you have multiple ways you can prove your income. Okay. One of them is bank statements. 12 months of your bank statements. We look at your deposits.
Receipts.
Yeah, you only look at your bank. You look at your bank statement. These are all deposits. We add it up, and then we calculate your income. Also, there's the cash flow on the property. So if the property is cash flowing, then we don't even need your income.
Right.
So there's stuff like that where you can become an investor. And you just have you had no idea that you could qualify. Maybe you've been turned down by a bank. And
worse yet, you assumed you couldn't without researching it or without looking to a resource like yourself.
Well, if you get told no by 2 or 3 banks or lenders, you're going to be like, right? You're like, well, shoot, I can't be. I guess it's not in the cards for me. But back to my point of these loan officers and brokers, maybe they've never done this, like a seminar. Maybe they've never done some kind of public speaking in front of 20, like a lunch and learn, bring realtors, give them lunch, stand up in front of them, how does someone break into that? You got to just do it. But the first time I sell a house, I'm not going to for sale by owner the first time. Yeah. I might have to have 3 or 4 of them before I think I've learned enough to go do it on my own. Sure. Same thing like you're talking about. I wouldn't do it on my own the first time. Get someone else that can speak.
Yeah, I would get me to come in. Okay. And coach that person on the agenda for the event. Right, I would be the speaker, and I would third-party testimonial that broker all day long. The third party, the broker would come out and say, "Thanks for everybody for coming. We can't wait to serve you. You're going to get a lot of information tonight. We hope you enjoy the drinks and the notepads and the so forth." And right. But have a speaker that knows how to speak, keep an audience engaged, deliver content, and seed plant the persuasion, to move people to the back to go sign up for whatever they need to sign up for to begin the process.
Right.
But what I would love about what you're saying is I would love to speak at something like that, because I'm an entrepreneur, right? And my wife's corporate, so whenever we want to do stuff, we use her corporate stuff. We don't even have to deal with my stuff. Thank God, we're lucky. That's cool. But I know dozens of people that are in the situation that you're talking about, probably hundreds.
Yeah.
And so I would love to, be a part of something like that to get that word out, because I know how valuable home finance is, and I know how important of an investment it is to be in real estate. It's like there's 3 ways to build wealth: business ownership, real estate, and inheritance. Absolutely. And 2 of those are riskier than real estate.
Yeah, it's crazy. The last guest I had on was telling me the difference in like a net worth on a renter versus the average net worth of a homeowner. It's like 40 times. I mean, it's crazy. Like I think it's like 6,500 something for a renter, and like 255,000 net worth for a homeowner. So the difference is so if you can help someone become a homeowner, you're changing their life, right? Like you're giving them this future that they can, whatever it is that they can use that home for, maybe paying, college or, daughter's wedding, whatever, right? Like, and then, inheritance later to keep their, let their kids grow and have. So it's like it's a really cool thing that people can do, is like give these homeowner seminars on, like, if you've been turned down, like you do radio ads. I mean, or like other kind of social media ads on to get people to come. There's all kinds of ways to get business out there. It's cool that you seem like you've been able to find business too, just on your own and using your own kind of skills to.
It started off networking.
Yeah.
For me, I know my behavioral style. I wasn't going to get a bunch of literature, send it out to a bunch of people and wait for the phone to ring. I was going to go and meet people. I was going to have conversations. I was going to make eye contact with people and listen to what's going on. Listen to what they have to say. A lot of people. Which has
been hard because of COVID, but now it's like coming back around. People are tired of being in their homes for the last 2 years. They're like, let's go to coffee. Let's go have a happy hour. Let's go. Like maybe they're going to be back in their office.
COVID was the perfect time to do what we were talking about before, which is get your curriculum down. You got quiet time, you're at home, you don't have to get dressed, you don't have to go out. All right, sit down in front of your computer and get your content, your subject matter expertise out of your head. The question I would ask people is, if somebody were going to do tomorrow everything that you could do today, what would they need to know? Keep answering that. What else would they need to know? What else would they need to know? What else would they need to know? Write it down. And then all of a sudden you have all these things that somebody needs to know in order to do well at something. And then you just group it and categorize it in a logical flow. And then you're ready to write a book about it, or give a speech about it, or give a webinar about it, or a half day, full day workshop, or what have you. So I really go back to curricularizing the content, understanding your subject matter expertise in a way that's going to help people. And then it helps you with the public speaking, the biz dev, and then on the networking, back to Get A Klu in 52, in the networking section right here, I teach questions that networkers should learn how to ask other people.
Got it.
Right? Like I'm not making.
Give me an example.
Well, what's your competitive, like if let's role play this. Let's say we met at a networking event, like, hey John, what's happening?
Not much, Jeff, just getting drinks.
Okay. What brings you to the event? Do you know the organizer, or are you speaking?
No, I'm just here to meet people and hang out.
Well, the question everybody asks, what do you do for a living, right? Everybody wants to know.
Yeah, I'm a mortgage broker.
Okay. All right. What I really want to know is what distinguishes you from other brokers. I mean, like, why do people hire you instead of wherever else they can go?
Oh, man, that's a good question. I'm, I specialize in jumbo loans. I specialize in, harder to do loans for entrepreneurs, loans for business owners. And, I'm good at it. I've been doing it a while. So, I get referral business. And
well, when people work with you, like, what do they get, or how do they feel? Like, what's the best testimonial you've ever gotten from somebody that you've helped?
Like, wow, everyone else turned me down, and, John was able to get me a loan.
So you can get it done when other people can't.
Yeah.
All right. So you're solution oriented. That's good to know. Now, if I wanted to refer somebody to you, what's the best referral? Like, what questions do I ask people to know if they're a good referral for you?
I mean, at first, I don't like to do small loans. So, I wouldn't want a small referral, but, not that I would bite the hand that feed me, but also, like, are they an entrepreneur? Are they a business owner? Typically those people just have harder times getting a loan from a bank or from a lender, and I can't really compete with Bank of America or Chase because they're just this massive institution. But if they have a hard time getting a loan from one of those places, then I'd be the person to talk to.
So if I'm talking to somebody about this jumbo loan guy that I just met that gets it done and finds the solution, and they say to me, well, how do I learn more about this guy? Where would I point them? Where would I send them?
Send them to my, I'll give you my phone number, email. Yeah.
I just got the digits, didn't I?
You did.
Now, at some point when I'm asking these questions, at some point, You're going to stop like worried about answering them and wonder like at some point you're going to want to know who I am, right?
Yeah. I mean, like
why are you asking these? Yeah. At some point.
Yeah.
But if I stay focused on you, and so there's basically questions like, what do you promise the marketplace, right? So,
well, you know what, I'm going to stop real quick because what you just did all of a sudden made me like you more.
Well, thank you.
And I'm not being like facetious about that, but like, you know, in that kind of situation, like I already liked you when you walked in.
We were going quick to get through the role play, but
But what I'm saying is that like when someone's interested in you all of a sudden get some kind of, is because you feel like someone cares about you, right? Versus like everyone's been at a party where you're just around and no one asks you questions, right? And that's the majority of the time, right? They might be like, what do you do? Oh, cool. I do this. And then they start talking about themselves, right?
Yeah.
But if you're asking questions, all of a sudden you just got like definitely points, right? On like the like who this person is in like likability scale. But then after that, you know, they do, then they feel like you've invested in them, and then automatically, like you just said, people are going to want to turn around and ask back some questions.
I'd rather tell you about me after you've asked me.
Right, because otherwise, you don't want to sound like
whatever. Yeah. Right, and deeper, what gives me the ability to do that, or when I teach this to people, it comes down to this confidence that you already know who you are. You know what your curriculum is, so I don't have to like. I remember, to try to keep this PC, but remember the old movie, like we might be the same age, right? Colors and Robert Duvall and Sean Penn. I'll never forget. So right? Back in the 80s, right?
I remember the whole rap.
We're dating ourselves generationally here, but here's what I'll never forget. The Robert Duvall's telling Sean Penn the story. He says, there's these two bulls, the young bull and the old bull, right? Remember this one? Sitting up at the pasture. He's like, hey, look, the young bull's like, hey, look down at that pasture of cows. Let's run down there and get one of those cows. Let's go, hey. Robert Duvall's like, no.
Yeah.
Let's walk down and get them all.
Yeah.
So same thing in a networking situation. I don't want to run into a networking situation, spray and pray all over you to tell you what I do, hoping that you're going to like what I say.
Right.
I want to ask you about you and create interest in you about what I do. And then when you're interested, you'll listen to my answers better anyway. Like everything gets easier. It's a hot knife through warm butter. If you have the confidence and the disposition, the maturity to wait and be patient, your opportunity will come. Better yet, if you earn it by genuinely being interested in other people. And
you just made yourself more memorable to that person too.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I've had times when I've been at these networking events and maybe with my wife or a friend or partner, and like leaving the party or like later on, you're like, oh, so-and-so, and you remember their name, or if you don't, you're like, oh, there's this one person, what was their name?
You're the jumbo guy. Yeah. Or there's some hook.
Yeah,
right?
there's something, and they're like, I remember they were asking me all these
You're
questions.
the needle threader. I saw you solve that problem. You threaded that needle, man. Yeah. I remember you like that, whatever it is.
Absolutely. So I think that is a huge skill that, like we said earlier, some get naturally, but that is something you can work at. Yes. And then you just tell yourself, look, I'm not going to go and just tell everyone about myself. I'm going to go ask, be genuinely interested in what people have to say, and then that's the best way, I think, to get referrals.
Look at the hourglass here. It's right in front of my face, right? Yeah. It's going this way now, but guess what? You can go the other way. Yeah. So what I'm getting at, heads, tails, same coin. Yep. So these questions, and they're in the book, right? Yep. Get a Klu in 52, shameless plug, right? Anyway, they're in the book, right? These questions are heads, tails. Right. These are questions I want to ask you.
You hope to get asked back, yeah.
I want to have answers to them. Yeah. So if somebody asks me, what's your big promise to the marketplace? I say soft skills and integrity without hesitation. Yeah. If they say, what's your competitive advantage? I'll say, I'm the only coach I know that has a master's degree in communication and 20 years experience as a professor.
Nice. And you already prepared that.
If people say, what do people get when they work with you? It's like, well, they get access, they get a binder, they get a journal, they get my books, they get a membership community. Well, how does it make them feel? Well, most of the time people feel clear and they did it. So in other words, I've already...
You know what you're going to say.
I already know my answers to these questions.
Sure. Yeah. Right. And then when you answer them back, there's no
hesitation. I've got confidence. I can maintain eye contact. Yeah. I'm not worried about what my hands feel like when I shake your hand. I can make eye contact, and my mind is more present to the interaction, and the pre-qualifying I can do in the moment of networking. People think pre-qualifying comes after networking. No, it starts right away. Yeah, man. In my opinion.
I think everyone needs to see this clip. Let's make sure this pushed out, because that's awesome.
Thank you. Well, cool. I'm excited about this. I'm passionate about it.
That right there could make the exchange with people that could be massively impactful to your business it could be a huge success or a big failure. If you don't prepare, what do they say? If you don't prepare,
like failure to prepare is preparing to fail, right? Or proper preparation prevents poor performance. I mean, there's a bunch of them, right? Thank you for making me regurgitate those on the spot. My point is, but think about also like think about us. Yeah. If I call myself a coach, and my menu's more broad than that. Sure. But if I call myself a coach, I'm one of 17 coaches at the networking event. Yeah. You could say you're a mortgage guy. Yeah. Like one of 17 mortgage people. Yeah. How many financial advisors, real estate agents, mortgage brokers, insurance salesmen am I going to meet at every networking event I go to? So I have to know like what differentiates you from the swinging, over here.
Right. Absolutely.
Right. And a lot of people aren't ready for that question.
No.
So what they'll say is, well, I really care about you. It's like, no. Everybody says that. What differentiates you? People say, well, I
have the lowest rates and the quickest turn times.
Everybody says that. Yeah. What differentiates you?
Right.
And I'm not going to be like that aggressive in a networking environment, but I'm going to ask the question in a way where now maybe after we get down, now I may say, hey, are you interested in 2 comp sessions with myself or one of my coaches? Because we can get you much better answers to these questions and make sure that you're really kicking ass and you're ready compared to the competition.
Yeah.
You really differentiate yourself.
100%.
So we can do that.
That's good, man.
Yeah.
Obviously, personal branding is important. You took your last name, Get A Klu.
Yeah.
It makes people remember, right? Mm-hmm. Like when you have like a little phrase like that, like someone like you said. I mean, it could be cheesy, but it's memorable. And in this noisy world right now,
yes,
memorable is gonna win.
Yeah. And you don't just snap your fingers and come up with a cheesy quote. Like I got lucky, my last name, right? Yeah. Like I was vulnerable with you. I said, I started doing Get A Klu, so I would just prevent people from bagging on me. If I bagged on myself first, then I might disarm other people from using my name as an insult against me, right?
That's high school, right?
Yeah, well, even earlier, like elementary school and everything. By high school, I had owned it as Get A Klu, the article in the sports page, and I got to sell advertising on the sports page to the pizza shop when I showed them all the people I pissed off. Anyway, that was all funny. But branding. So a lot of people don't understand what branding is. Yep. Right, the way that I teach it and so forth. Branding is more
like a cool font or something.
It's not a font. It's not a logo. Like I could tell you what I learned from one of my mentors who's here in Encinitas all these years, Brian Tracy International. He says your brand is your promise to the marketplace. Your brand is your promise. Now, branding is how you get that promise out. Right. And then you want it to be memorable, but I teach a process. So if I'm doing a coaching session or a half day or a full day workshop, there's a formula that I use to help people arrive at brand. Right. So it's kind of cute and cheesy the way I do it, but B for brand equals MP, the marketplace, divided by promises times competitive advantages. Mm-hmm. Stop there for a second. Brainstorm all of your promises. Brainstorm all your advantages. It's going to come out in jargon. Yep. Like QM, like that thing that I'm like, what?
Yeah, what is that?
So when you brainstorm, who's my market? What type of people do I want to work with? What are the promises, and how does that segment the market into market segments, target demographics, and target avatars and so forth? Then what are my competitive advantages? What do I do better than everybody else that also does it?
Yeah.
What do I do that nobody else does?
Right.
And once I answer those questions and get all of that out, there's going to be a bunch of industry jargon here.
Yeah.
Right. Now the rest of the equation is minus jargon and then plus slogan. So I won't say, well, I
don't want the jargon.
No, I don't like. I don't listen to your word choices to get access to your limiting beliefs, which I then can replace with empowering alternatives and condition to a point of transformation.
Yeah.
I'll say I'll do a checkup from the neck up and get you out of your own way.
Yeah, that's good.
Right, so the checkup from the neck up is catchy, but I arrived at it after I figured out what I'm promising. So I have to go through the jargon to get to the slogan.
That's good.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just a process that I teach.
Check up the neck. I can remember that. All the other stuff you said, I was like
what? Yeah.
Kind of like when I was like non-QM, bank statements, this ability to repay, all that stuff.
Yeah. So think about your younger agents. Yeah. Initial brokers, they just got their broker's license and they went through all this regulatory stuff and all the stuff that they got tested on, and they got all of this stuff in their head from their testing. Or the agents, they want to be compliant because it's regulated, and it's like, the buyer doesn't care.
No. Can you get me my house, my kitchen?
Yeah. So we have to figure out a way to sloganeer our promises and our advantages. And that's one of the things that I help people with.
That's good. And I think probably the most important thing is, like you said before, is like there's so many mortgage brokers. How do you become memorable? How do you become someone that people will want to use? And it's like you gotta be able to rise above, or you gotta be able to differentiate yourself,
stand out.
And like I'm glad you asked that, and that was an interesting question about like what kind of referral would you want or whatever. I wouldn't want a Fannie Mae. I wouldn't want like your first time home buyer that's a veteran, because I don't do VA loans.
Yeah.
So like you send that to me, I'm
like no offense to no offense to anybody out there, but get me the guy that was divorced 5 years ago, has had his own W-9 income for 30 years, and now has to rebuild their life, but can't prove anything to the banks. Give me that guy, please.
Yeah. And then if you know that that's your client, that's who your target is, then you can articulate that back to someone who's looking to...
Yeah, I just made that up off the top of my head, that guy. Yeah. I don't know what his name is, but...
If I still did loans, I would take that person and get him a loan.
You thread the needle.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Tell me about your smart system.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, we're talking about goal setting. Okay. And first of all...
And that's 2 A's. That's why I did the long...
Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate that. This is important to me because I'm a big fan of, look, the intellectual property, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know what your version of it is of theology, but it starts with God, and then the extroverts are just putting it in their own terms, right? There's universal truths about success and motivation and accountability, right? And then people like me, we're just going to put it in our own way. We're going to like come up with... So I learned SMART when I learned goal setting way back when I was getting trained as a coach, like 15, 16, 17 years ago or something. And I thought, oh, this is cool because I never learned this in school. SMART, specific, measurable. Have you been exposed to SMART before?
No, never heard it.
So what I'm going to do is I'll tell you how I learned it and then why I changed it. Added an A, changed the R. Okay. But first of all, it's a goal setting approach. It's part of the strategy of setting goals, right? And it's like criteria for setting goals. So a lot of times, if I was standing in front of 100 people right now and say, how many of you set goals? 100 would raise their hand.
Of course.
But if I said, write them down right now and turn them in, nobody would. And then when they would, it would be vague, wishy-washy, psychobabble.
Do more business.
That's not a goal. That's a hope, a wish, or a dream.
Right.
Yeah. So where I'm coming from is motivation and accountability. If people don't have a need to be motivated or accountable in order to achieve what they want, they don't need me.
Yeah.
Right. You need me if you want to change your behavior.
Yeah.
Right. So when I learned SMART goal setting, it was cool because a goal has the form, what will happen by when. There is a what, an occurrence, a happening, a witnessing, what will we get? What will we see? What will we have? What will, there's an occurrence, an event, a moment in time where something happens.
Sure.
And then it's the when. The T in the model is by when, right? So when I'm doing goal setting with people, I encourage them to do it quarterly. So right now we're at February 11th or whatever. I'd say, what's the greatest thing you could achieve in the next 3 months by May 15th? Mm-hmm. And so maybe you want $1 million. So I would say, how much do you want? What do you need to do by May 15th to feel like you're on your way to the million, let's say, right? So that's whatever it is, $300,000 by May 15th.
Yeah.
Okay. So the what, once you have the what established, and people want to set goal areas for what? Health, relationships, finance, usual suspects, right? Sales, marketing, finance, lead gen, whatever, right? There's usual suspects in life and business where people want better than what they have now. Right. So now it's like, all right, what by when? What by when? What by when? Now the what, the criteria for the what, this is what I learned, is S is specific. If you mean wrench, don't say tool. Make it as specific as possible. So you get reticular activation, and the more clear you are, the more opportunity you'll see, like law of attraction and all of that. Yeah. Remember, the first car I got was a Volkswagen Bug, and then all of a sudden I noticed all of the Volkswagen Bugs on the road, right? But they were all there the day before. I just noticed them now because I have one. So the same thing, if we tell ourselves clearly what we want, we'll start noticing ways to get it that we wouldn't even see before. Right. So that's important about specific, okay? M is measurable. This is the really, really, really tricky part because most egos will sabotage the measurability part because people are afraid of failure. Right? So they'll make it vague and wishy-washy and general, and to avoid the accountability or to avoid the eventuality that will look at May 15th and say, no, you didn't achieve it. Yep. So it's a misunderstanding of failure. If my goal was $1 million and I got $920,000, I didn't fail. No. I successfully achieved 92% of my goal. Right. So people need to...
How do you measure that? Yeah.
Well, you have to ask what's the measurability? I'll get back to this in a second. Well, I'll do it now. Right. So let's say somebody says to me as a brand new loan officer, right? Yep. Hey man, brand new in the business and I feel like I got the goods, and I'm like, all right, what's your goal? He says, I want to make $50,000 a month. I say, okay, by when? Because the T, by when? He says, by May 15th. Like, ooh, you have 3 months to be making $50,000 a month. And I'll clarify. Yep. Let's be specific. Do you want to make $50,000 in any month? Or do you want to make $50,000 a month? No, I want to make $50,000 a month. Yeah. I'm like, okay, well, what's the measure? He's like, $50,000. No. That was specific. What are we going to look at on May 15th to say yes or no, you're making $50,000 a month? Right. So like, look at my bank account. I'm like, what are we looking for?
Yeah.
Excuse me. What are we looking for when we look at your bank account? He's like, you're looking for 50 grand. I'm like, what? You said you want to make 50 grand a month.
Right.
If I look at it 1 month and I see it that you did it once, but you said you want to do it. So what's your measure? You decide, not me. How many months in a row do you need to make 50 grand a month?
Yep.
Or is it, what if it's 55 1 month and 45 the next? Will you say, yes, I achieved it? Or does it need to be minimum 50 every month, average of 50 over 3 months? What's your, you decide, not me, but I'm going to hold you accountable.
Right.
Because I don't like building a mansion on top of quicksand. So if we don't know what the real goal is, how can I guide you towards it over the next 3 months? Let's figure out what we're really trying to achieve here.
Absolutely.
It's like, no, 3 months in a row at 50 grand. I'm like, all right, well, you may want to extend this to July 15th instead of May, because we're already into February and you'd have to get a 50 grand month this month to achieve that goal. So let's adjust the time frame now.
Yep.
So you're not setting yourself up for failure. And most people don't even think at this level, and especially when you're dealing with yourself. Well, it's the accountability. It's the external accountability source, world-class and trained. I know what to ask, right? Mm-hmm. Same thing if an addiction goal. If somebody wants to beat an addiction, like quit smoking or something, I'll say, by when do you want to quit smoking? October 1st. Okay, how will we know that you quit? Well, I just stopped smoking in September. No. You follow? Like, how long have you ever gone without a cigarette? What's the longest you've ever gone? 3 weeks. All right, so how long do you need to go without a cigarette in order to declare that you've quit? Yeah. Oh, probably 6 months. Okay.
Now you got to push your goal.
What if you do 2 months and have a cigarette? Do you have to start all over again at 6 months, or are you giving yourself an allotment? Like, what is it?
Yeah, good point.
Do you understand? And people don't ever think on this level when they're goal setting, which means they're not really goal setting. They're setting themselves up for failure.
And that's why most people fail.
Avoid it.
Yeah,
that's why they avoid the goal setting altogether. But if you ask them,
they ultimately fail too. At the end of the day, if they're not doing that goal setting with that kind of level of
accountability,
then they're gonna fail.
Yeah, it's like, again, you wouldn't want to build a mansion on quicksand.
No.
So the number one foundation for achievement is goal setting. All the Ivy League studies on human performance have demonstrated that all high achieving individuals share the trait, the quality, the habit of setting goals. Yeah. Not hopes, wishes, and dreams. Right, not vagaries, but
because
specific
people do
and measurable.
Goals are hopes, wishes, and dreams a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to have a house on the beach someday. Yeah, it's a wish.
That's a hope. It could be a vision. It could be a wish. It could be a hope. Right. But I would say, by when?
Where do you want it to be? And what size house? And
all of that.
Yeah.
Right. So I could teach people how to do goal setting on their own, but most people need help with it to really do that external accountability source, because you got to overcome the voice in your head. Now the ART, achievable. You have to believe you can do it.
Yep.
In the model I learned, realistic. And then T is time bound. But when I got deeper into accountability and mindset and everything, I said, wait a second, if I believe I can achieve it. Have you ever heard the Henry Ford quote? Whether you believe you can or believe you cannot, you are right.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. So if I believe, and I would do this with agents, right? Imagine public speaking now. Who are my brokers in the audience? And I get somebody to raise their hand. How many deals did you do last year? He says 12. Right? All right. What's your goal this year? 18. All right. Awesome. 50% increase. I'll say, do you think you can do 180? No. All right, do you think you can do 19? Well, yeah. Do you think you can do 97? No. Do you think you can do 20? Yeah. 55? No. 22? Yeah. Right? And then 25? No, that would be more than double. I kind of feel weird about that. I think 24. Okay, how much money do you make on a deal? Oh, roughly around $5-6 per deal or whatever. Yeah. If it's a younger guy or girl or agent or whatever. And so I'll say, wait a second. So by holding you accountable to what you really believe, did I, 18 to 24, the 6 more deals, did I just make you $30,000 more by holding you accountable to what you really believe? Because left to your own devices, you stopped at 18, but just answering a couple of my questions, you got all the way up to 24. Yeah. I call that the threshold of belief.
Right.
People won't take themselves to the threshold of belief, but I will. I'll take you to your threshold of belief, not letting you go over. If somebody sets a goal that the Kardashians are doing or Joe Rogan is doing, or if somebody's looking out there to a magazine or their neighbor or whatever, you don't necessarily believe inside your own soul that you can achieve it. So it's important to screen for that belief. Now, if we do that, now our realistic becomes redundant, because we already screened for realistic with my mindset. I believe I can do it, becomes my reality. Moreover, with that criteria, somebody could brush their teeth twice a day and be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic in a certain amount of time. So if somebody wants to brush their teeth twice a day, and that's their goal, they don't need me.
Sure.
Right. But if somebody wants to change their behavior and get something they haven't gotten before, right? They need me. So I added an A for ambition. Right. So not just achievable. Do you believe you can? But is this ambitious? Not like, why 1 million? Why not 5 million?
Yeah.
Like, what behavior do you need to change in order to achieve this? If you have to change your behavior, do you have to decrease any of your current behaviors? Do you have to improve any of your current behaviors?
Right.
Do you have to start doing something you're not doing? You have to stop that, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
DISS, decrease, increase, start, or stop. If you have to do one of those 4 to achieve your goal, you might need a coach.
Yeah.
You might need somebody that can support you on behavioral change and get you out of your own way.
For sure.
And then what'd you do with the R? The R is now reason or reward. Like, what's your why? What's your why? What's your why? What's your why?
What's the reason? Yeah.
Yeah. Why do you want it? Why else do you want it? Why else do you want it? So most people, if they got one reason for wanting something, money, they might get around to doing what it takes.
Sure.
But if they've got 4 reasons for wanting something, I want to build my database. I want to make a bunch of money. I want to be known as a subject matter expert in the industry. And I want to get out of agent into broker, into investor. Now that person can be unstoppable.
Yeah.
So if I pull all of that reason, reward out of them and get them clear on it, they won't press snooze. They'll get up and they'll go the extra mile. There's never any traffic on the extra mile.
And if you know that you can do that and you have someone keeping you accountable, the chances of you getting that goal, or at least close to it, like you said, you can measure it, right? And
yeah. I don't make people successful. I help them earn the success they're going to get anyway, just quicker, with less mistakes, more certainty, more fun.
That's good.
Yeah.
I love that.
I don't work with, coaches aren't for, underachievers.
Yeah.
Coaches are for successful people that know they want to succeed.
Yeah.
And they want it quicker, faster, smarter, more certain, less errors, more efficient.
Absolutely. And that's, I wonder, do people have hesitancy in getting a coach because they just don't want, they almost don't, do they really want it? Right? It's like I want to be more fit, right? Like I want to drop pounds, and it's on my dream board and it's on my vision board, and I have this weight that I want, right? But I love tacos. I love tequila. I love eating. I love, spending time by the pool or whatever it is. I don't love the gym. It's not my favorite thing to do, right? But I have also had a trainer before, and I know that sometimes I dread, like, today's Tuesday. I got, so-and-so coming, and we got to do, and I got to be accountable. Yeah. So what is it, or what's the reason why we hesitate to even commit to that stuff? Do we really not want, there's a
lot of reasons. There's a lot of reasons, but just imagine, this isn't the best example, but a scale now, right? You got a left side of a scale, right side of a scale, and whichever one's carrying more weight will go lower. Right? So when your desire to be fit is heavier than your desire for tequila or tacos, you will commit. Right. Until then you won't. Right. It's just, what do you want more? Yeah. People don't have a problem telling you what they want. Right. What they have a problem with is telling you what they're willing to do to get it. Yeah.
And that's the problem, is they easily want something, but
everybody wants
something. Are they willing? Yeah. Is someone willing to do it,
Yeah. And so it's like, is it DEFCON 1 or DEFCON 5? Right. And the other part of it is, to take a coaching concept, leverage. I might say to something like, here, let's role play this. All right. So you're interested in getting to a certain weight. What is it? Right? Don't answer these questions, but hear them. Right. Yeah. What does it cost you in the past not to be at an ideal weight? What is it costing you right now not to be at the weight that you want to be at? And if you don't get to the weight that you want to be at in the next year or two, what's at stake? If you can't come up with good answers to that, then go back to tacos and tequila. Yeah. You follow? Because there's the reason that right? Because there's no real consequences. Sure. Right. But if you're like I am, dealing with mortality of parents and wondering about midlife stuff, and, I'm going to be 50 years old this year, and I lost my parents in 2020. Now I'm wondering more about health. Yeah. Right. So getting the colonoscopy, getting the wisdom teeth removed, getting the sleep study, and getting a sleep. I didn't want to do any of that. Yeah. For the first 48 years. Yep. And all of a sudden my parents died, and I'm looking at my kids, and all of a sudden I really wanted to do it. Yeah. So
you have the why.
Yeah. Well, and also I can have these conversations with myself, right? But most people aren't trained in pulling the why, or the what, or the what's at stake, or the consequences of doing or not doing anything about this. Right. If I asked 1 million people out there, what are the 3 most important things about their world, life or business or career, that have to be different, I'd get 3 million answers. But all of them would fit in 6 categories. We already know what everybody wants. It's not, what do you want isn't the hard part. We know what people want. Sure. They want health, relationships, finance. They want connection. Freedom. They want legacy, variety, excitement. We know what people want. What we don't know is how bad they want it, what they're willing to do to get it, we don't know how addicted they are to the chemicals of the status quo. So a lot of times when people think about addiction, they think coffee or nicotine or sugar, but there's emotions, not just the taco, but there's a way that you feel when you have the taco.
Yeah.
So there's chemicals that come out of our hypothalamus and they get into our system, right? And so the cells in our body can be saying, wait a second, I like when you eat a taco. That makes me feel good.
Right.
Give me more of that.
Yeah.
And there's not enough cellular level craving for the workout, for the gym, for the does that make sense? So like my son, who's a junior in high school right now, if he goes a day or two without working out, he starts getting nervous because the cells in his body are looking for that kind of adrenaline, sweat, right? So if he doesn't work out, he'll get nervous. And you probably know people like that, like, oh, I haven't been to the gym in 3 days, I feel like crap. It's like, what? It's like, wait a second, did you say days or years? Because I'm sorry to project my situation onto your listening, but you know what I'm getting at. They're addicted to that.
They like it.
That emotion.
Something's in their cells. That,
you got well, like a cell. So here's the thing. Imagine like an arrow or a needle, right? And so when the emotions, they form in like peptides or chain amino acid sequences. Like if we saw this visualized, it looked like a rope, you know, but they leave the hypothalamus and they get into our nervous system and their cells, they're bombarding. So now imagine like a pin cushion. Okay. So now if, let's say disciplined, firm, steadfast, unwavering, think about that.
Yep.
That vibration, steadfast, firm, unwavering. If that comes out of my hypothalamus, right, and then sticks to my cell like a pin cushion, now like a syringe, it's going to infuse this cell with the chemicals that make up. So anger feels different than sadness. Steadfast feels different than hopeful. Do you follow? So it feels different because there's different chemical combinations. So same way nicotine is different than caffeine. Steadfast is different from any other emotion, right? Steadfast, dedicated, they vibrate the same. Anyway, so the thing is now the cell, when it divides like a crack baby, the new cell is saying, hey, tapping its veins like a heroin addict saying, hey, where's the chemical that mom and dad had? Yeah. Now all of a sudden you're like, God, I feel like I should go for a run. Yeah. Or you know what? I think, the gym's still open. I can get there. And you don't know why, but because the cell was sending the craving up.
Interesting. So
like there's a lot of reasons why people will hesitate getting a coach, cellular level, fear of changing, discipline, work, all kinds of reasons.
So, sort of still in a brand new year, right? We're in February.
Yeah, happy Klu year, by the way.
Thank you. You too, I should say. Some of us set goals. Some of the listeners. Maybe one of those goals is to build a team, to build your business, right? To add, more employees, more staff, to grow.
Yes.
What is some advice you can give on team building and like growing and scaling a business? Yeah,
I'll tell you that it's not just growing and hiring, but it's also managing performance so they stay.
Yeah.
Okay, because most business owners are afraid to hire. Number one, they're afraid of committing salary to new people, not knowing if they're going to have enough money to do it. That's one fear. But then also they're afraid of making a bad hire, having a babysitting situation, and now all that time they spent hiring and all the money they spent hiring, and now they just have to kick that person out, which is another pain in the ass with other liabilities. Time. Yeah, and now it's like, is it worth it? And back to your guy before, I'm just going to run my own desk, man. Yeah. Screw this. Yeah. Right. And there's no right or wrong to it, but for people that do want to grow and scale, right? I'm going to tell you that I have a thing that I teach. I could teach it in 10 minutes. I could teach it in a day. It's the wheel of performance management. Okay. So imagine a hub, right? And then the spokes. So every document or every piece of intel or the document that you would need to manage somebody's performance to get good performance out of them, keep them engaged, low turnover, retention, and then performance, right? That's what you want. All of the documents, I could say, first of all, they're spokes in my mind, they're spokes on a wheel. And the hub, and this sounds weird because it's not rocket science, is the position description. This is what most business owners won't do. They won't sit down and write a good position description. One that's meaningful, detailed, accurate, ones that's strategic. So when it comes to a position description, there's 3 keys. The title. The right title that you have is going to prevent the wrong person from applying. So is this a production assistant or is it a senior loan officer? Totally different applicants. Does it make sense? Right?
100%. Yeah.
So if you're not thinking about the title, you're going to get an inbox of 100 resumes and you're going to fall asleep before you open 2 of them. And now you've basically said, hey, everybody, I'm hiring, but I'm not going to get to your resume. So now you're not marketing yourself very well either. Like, I submitted my resume, but I haven't heard from anybody. And now that's the word on the street about your business.
Yep.
Right? Mm-hmm. Number 2, duties. So a lot of times when people write the position description, they're writing an ad instead of a position description. I want to know observable duties. What are the successful candidate?
What do you expect from them?
Yeah, observable duties.
Yeah,
right.
Specifics.
Like, we'll turn on the lights. We'll get a branded mug, for the host. We'll greet upon arrival. We'll reach out, find candidates. So observable.
They can then visualize
bingo.
The candidate.
They can see whether or not. Now, first of all, they haven't seen this yet. By the way, I can get way deeper on the process. But what I'm getting at is behind the scenes. You have to be really clear on the position title, the title for the position, so you get the right seniority and the right skill set acumen.
Sure.
Okay.
Someone who's looking maybe for a higher level job that they want to, get a boost or whatever.
Nobody wants to hire somebody overqualified.
Right.
Nobody wants to hire somebody underqualified unless you already have a training plan in place.
Sure.
So a lot of people hire out of what? Desperation. And now it's like, hey, what's that behind you? Do you have a pulse? Can you start tomorrow?
Yeah.
And now they wonder why they got to let that person go in 30 days.
True.
So duties are observable behaviors. Like if I was watching you do your job, what would I see you do? So action verbs are what you want on the duties, right? But here's what's really important about that. Once I get clear on the duties, now I know what qualifies somebody to do that. Now I'll give a very basic example. If one of the duties is data entry, we'll do digitize our files, data entry. So what qualifies somebody to do that? Must be able to type 60 words a minute.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But a lot of times in qualifications, like must be a team player, must have good communication skills, but it's not, they're not putting
Everyone
themselves
thinks they have that in their head. Oh, I'm a team player.
Yeah.
But if you,
but how do you screen for it? How do you find out for sure?
Yeah.
How do you interview for it? How do you follow? Cause so anyway, so if I have in the center, right, if I have title, duties, and qualifications, now I can write the spokes, right? Now I can write a really good ad, which is it's not the position description, it's a short thing that attracts candidates, but I've got that title, right?
Yep.
Hey, are you looking for project management experience, but not in IT or engineering? We're looking for a marketer.
That's good.
Project, do you understand what I'm getting? So then I can write the ad more.
And you're asking, are you looking for?
Yeah.
Versus like, we are looking for, right?
Like you got it. You make it audience centric.
You make it totally different. Like that, I've hired thousands of people in my career.
Yeah.
And when you see something that's geared towards you, it instantly piques your interest.
That's what a lot of what we're talking about is. People think, and I used to ask this to my communication students, what do you think communication is? They say, getting your point across. No. To who? If nobody's listening, what are you getting point across to?
Right.
So communication is at least 51% listening.
Yeah.
And it's a receiver base. Doesn't matter if I think I'm good. It matters what you think.
Yeah.
So I got to be more about you than about me.
Yeah.
But until I know what I'm doing, it's going to be hard to not be about me because I'm insecure and I'm over explaining and I'm setting the narrative. If I just get a confidence about what I'm doing, then I could really be about you. Yeah. And now I'm writing a better ad that appeals to you rather than me. Like, hey, we're hiring, great opportunity, come work for us.
Right. Versus what are you?
It's not about me. Everybody's favorite topic is themselves. So if you're not speaking to everybody's favorite topic, you might lose them. But all these other documents. So now I can write a better offer letter. I can write better interview questions. I can write an employee handbook or update the employee handbook based on what I know this person's going to do. How do they access? What are the rules of working here? I can write an operations manual so I can operationalize their duties because I'm clear about what they are. So now I can create standard operating procedures because if you're out for the day, we can call a temp agency and have somebody here that'll do 60% of your job.
Right. Yeah,
just by following the SOPs. Right?
Right.
And then I can write an agenda for my one-on-one meeting with you because I'm not just your boss, but I'm going to coach you to success. So we're going to have a one-on-one agenda, but then I'm also going to write the agenda for the team meeting if your position is on a team. But the description informs what I want to do in those meetings. Right? Now I could also write key performance indicators. Like if you did 60 words a minute for 3 hours a day, how many files would you do per day? Now I can figure out if you're below, at, or above average performance.
Right.
And then I can set the performance improvement plan. Here's what happens if you kick ass. Raises, promotions, more responsibility. Here's what happens if you're average. You'll stay right where you are because everybody needs some average players on the team. Right? We would know what the successful ones are. You don't want below average on your team, but every team has them. And then if you're below average, here's our performance improvement plan. First, we're going to train you this. Then we're going to send you here. Finally, we're going to invest in a coach for you. And if 90 days later, you're still not making your numbers, we're going to let you go to an opportunity that will make sense for you because it obviously doesn't make sense here. Right. And then finally, the termination letter. So I got add, like follow it like a clock. The ad, the interview questions, the employee handbook, the operations manual, the key performance indicators, the one-on-one and team meeting agendas, the performance improvement plan, and the termination letter, and then replace that ad again and get somebody really good in here.
Right.
So the wheel.
And if you follow that, you hopefully won't.
I will manage their performance better.
Right.
Because I'm doing it from solid foundation.
Give them a better chance of succeeding.
Yeah, so when they respond to the ad, then I was like, hey, we're asking everybody to answer these questions before scheduling interviews. What's your status? What's your motivation? What's your availability? What are your expectations? Reattach your resume. Mm-hmm. And then if they answer on time and answer good, then I'll schedule a phone interview. I haven't even had to look at a resume yet.
Saved yourself a ton of time.
You got it. So a lot of times people will hire out of desperation, place an ad that's not based on a well-written position description. It's a desperation play, speaking about me rather than you.
And they don't have time to
Then they got 100 resumes in their inbox, and they've just created another piece of overwhelm and stress for themselves because they didn't take the time to build the foundation first, which is the position description.
That's good. Do you have like a plug and play kind of thing like that for like, you know, like my friend who just does loan survivor, just does his own loans and he's all by himself, but he maybe wants to add 2 or 3, but it's not enough time to do all what you just said. Do you have like a plug and play solution for maybe a mortgage broker that's trying to add to their team, like where you have a wheel?
Yeah, well,
maybe like you could spend an hour with them and help.
Yeah,
do all that.
For any mortgage broker out there that's listening that would like me to come on in or do a Zoom or whatever, complimentary for your listeners. I won't even charge for the first hour.
Be careful.
I'm telling you, right? Yeah. Or for the first 5, get me, and then the rest of you get one of the coaches I've trained. Anyway, you know what I'm saying? Like honestly, I could come up with an hour for anybody in your universe, right? An hour, right?
That's generous. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's very simple. You know, why do you want to hire? You know, what's your, an hour later, and then tell me about your processes now. Send me the position description. What interview questions? Where has it hurt in the past? Why hasn't this gone well for you? What's your hesitation? What are you really afraid of? An hour later, I'll have them dialed in.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And if they want me to come in, like one of the things is I can either coach people on the strategic staffing process. So I meet with them and then I give them the content and then they go execute it. Or as a consultant, I can come in and kinda supplement,
like keep them accountable.
I can do the interviews. Yeah, like right now I'm coaching quasi consulting with a client of mine in the publishing industry that is looking for, it was off the top of my head, a project manager in training. Yep. And so I'm coaching the hiring manager on position description, screening questions, how do we get from screening to phone interview? Right? At some point they may want me to come in and participate in the interviews, but if not, I'll be there at the end running behavioral assessments on the final candidates. And so anybody can hire, but most people are going to hire out of desperation, make tons of mistakes. If I'm a broker, I didn't take human resources classes. If I'm you follow, but I need to hire. Yeah,
you do.
So
and you may not be able to afford a full-time HR person.
I'll make a deal with the mortgage brokers out there. If I can do my own loan, I would. And if you can hire on your own, go for it.
Yeah, you know what I mean? You can't do it all, right?
We need specialists. We need help.
We do.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's a smarter play to get help from an expert than it is to try to. I mean, I could do my own plumbing. Right, sure, but it would take me 1,000 times as long. I'd make tons of mistakes, and I wouldn't be saving. I wouldn't be saving the money that I thought I'd be saving by doing it myself.
Right. I mean, we all can wash our own car, but it's like go have someone wash it.
That's
pay a little money
if you're depending on what your time is worth.
Especially, most of the mortgage brokers last year made a ton of money, so they can afford to hire someone like you. And if they want to scale,
times are good.
Yeah, times been good.
Yeah.
One question I love to ask all my guests is, we've all had failures if we're successful, right?
Yes.
What's your favorite failure? Put you on the spot. Just one that just stands out, like that made you learn something.
Yeah, well, it's not the favorite. Like, I don't know, I think about all these embarrassing moments come to mind rather than my favorite failure. And I know that there's like this big, like, I feel naked right now in front of a gazillion people moment that's like I'm not accessing, but like, I think that, God, I'm trying to find a specific anecdote, because this is a big question. Yeah. This is an important question.
Or maybe not your favorite, but just one that stands out.
Yeah, well, one is an embarrassing one when I was posturing, when I didn't even know what coaching was. Mm-hmm. I had a real estate license, and I'm like, all right, I formed Get A Klu as a C Corp, but I thought I'd be a consultant. Right. Yeah. So I was going out in the marketplace handing out 2 business cards. I had my real estate business card, right? I would put on a real estate costume and go network with brokers and title reps and insurance and financial, the Buffinis and the whatever of the world, right? And so I was playing with it, right? And then I had my card, my business card that I made on my computer at home with like the clip art, right? Like the dude holding a light bulb. Like it said, need some ideas? Get a clue. I had no idea what I was doing, right? Yeah. So I meet this title rep at an event, and I hand him the 2 cards, and he goes, and his name's Brian Trachel. If you know, many of your people may know him. He's very, very well known in real estate and personal professional growth. Great guy. And he says, "Oh, you're a coach too?" I just met him, and I was like, "Coach? Read the card. It says consultant." You know how much money I'd made as a consultant at that point? Like exactly $0.00.
Got it.
And I was like, "What do you coach?" Like, I didn't even know what it was. He's like, Tony Robbins, and he starts naming all these names. I'm like, oh man, I know all of these academic authors of communication, but I don't know coaching. And moreover, I'm networking myself to people that don't hire consultants. They hire coaches. Let me learn more about this coaching thing. And then I went, so it was a great mistake. I was posturing. I wasn't being authentic. Right. I was like, not fake it till you make it, but act as if. I was just caught in a state of ignorance. I'm just like, there it is. I'm ignorant. Yeah. Teach me something. Yeah. Right. And so a lot of people go through that when they want to be an expert, they want to be credible, etc. But you have to be willing to be honest and humble. Right. Yeah. So I'd say the only mistake to be afraid of is the one you don't learn from. Right. Don't have to make mistakes. Yeah. Don't let the packaging fool you. Like you're either going to win or you're going to learn. That's good. Just go, take action. You'll win or learn. Either way, you're winning.
Who inspires you?
My wife and kids inspire me. If you said, "Hey Jeff, what do you do for a living?" I wouldn't say coaching, consulting, or any of that stuff. I'd say I wake up every day, figure out how to deserve my wife and kids. My daughter, I'll start there. My God, she's got the fast processor like me, so she's theater and performance, and but she's also got like the analytical stuff from my wife. So I'm looking at this dynamo that can do everything I can do and so much more.
That's awesome.
And it's really awesome because I told my wife, I'm like, "Hey, you got to say yes because we'll make good kids." She's like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, they'll draw a little from me and they'll draw a little from you and they'll be better than either of us. So thank my kids for proving me right on that so far." My son AJ, he's right now in varsity baseball. He made varsity as a sophomore. That's further than I ever got athletically.
Awesome, man.
Right? Like he just inspires me. But I'm already looking up to my kids based on what they've accomplished in their lives, right? But then people like you inspire me as well. Entrepreneurs that know that you need to market yourself. Like you're not just slinging loans, but you're investing in all of this right here because you understand marketing, you understand growth, you understand subject matter expertise, true leadership, a brand. You want to be a place where people want to come and hang their license and want to, so people, entrepreneurs inspire me, people that have achieved so much that they are charitable. Like, Tony Robbins does the turkeys on Thanksgiving, or, Oprah, she got so successful that she does charity all over the place. Shaquille O'Neal inspires me. Yeah. I love Shaq. He's one of my favorite guys on the planet. I got a really cool Shaq story too, but every time I look up, he's doing something to help others. Yeah. He fought childhood obesity on national television. He, whether it's kids, computers for kids in the inner city in a partnership with Bill Gates, or he's just one of these guys that gets it. Like he knows that he's been gifted and he's not wasting his gifts. Yeah. He knows I got to make as much money as I can so I can do as much in the world as possible. So people that understand that their fame, their success, their gifts are for the purpose of serving others inspire me.
Awesome. Right? Any books you're reading or podcasts that you could recommend?
Right now I'm reading The One Thing. I'm finishing The One Thing. Who's the writer? There was the guy from Keller Williams, but he got the author, Papa's on The One Thing. Like it's about focus, right? What's the one thing you could do now that such by doing it, everything else would be easier? So I'm finishing that book. Podcasts, I haven't been listening to podcasts lately. I'm marketing myself to be guests on podcasts. Yes. So
because you're an author and you're a speaker.
Yeah, author, speaker. And so I wouldn't be honest if I recommended a podcast because I don't listen to podcasts regularly myself. That's going to change. Yeah. That's going to change. As a matter of fact, yours is my favorite podcast. Remember?
You would have a great podcast, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
You speak well. You could. I'm sure you could.
I understand the interviewing skills, but I haven't done podcasts. But I did in 2011. I did my interview series where once a month I interviewed somebody different in a different vertical, and that was back on conference lines when you'd *6 to mute yourself, right? And on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Pacific, there's a Facebook group, Get A Klu in 52, and I Zoom with my co-author of the Entrepreneur Edition, and we Zoom it. So if people want to join on the Facebook side, They could just participate in the conversation, free Q&A, free group coaching to people. And then it streams into the Facebook group, Get A Klu in 52.
Nice.
And then sometimes we'll have special guests, like, you know, offline or whatever, and say, hey man, do you want to come on as a special guest on my thing? And it's not produced like this. It's not, no lights, no mics,
audio only,
just use your camera and, you know, or your laptop.
Computer,
you know, it's very casual, like, you know, sweatshirt. I was doing it on Sunday nights, now Tuesday nights, because that fit my co-author's schedule. So, you know, you could look through these categories or these tips and figure out which one you think you'd be awesome at. And then we could do a promotion like, hey, our special guest this week is.
Sure.
But you just give me a couple of bullet points and a picture. I create a graphic and let people know we have a special guest. It's not produced beyond that, you know. But thank you for the compliment. One day, maybe a podcast is in my future.
You could, man. It's fun. But if someone wants to find you, Jeff, what's the easiest way?
Call my wife.
Call your wife.
No, I'm joking.
She knows where you are at
all times. Domestic LoJack. No, I'm easy to find. Jeff Klubeck, Klubeck. If you just type it in, I'll come up.
Okay.
Right now, the old website, getaklu.net.
And that's KLU.
Yeah, GETAKLU.net. On YouTube. Right, a lot of stuff. People like watching videos.
Someone wants to call you and hire you.
Or if they I'll give my phone number.
Well, if you have a business line, or?
I'll just give it out. 619-405-3356. And then if somebody's interested in that hour that I offered, they can email me info at getaklu.net or jeff@getaklu.net if you want to make sure it comes to me versus screen. So for your listeners, jeff@getaklu.net.
Awesome.
And I'm easy to find. I'm easy.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I think you provided a lot of value for the listeners and for myself, for my business. So
thank you. Yeah.
I'm going to use some of this stuff, and we're going to go talk to the sales team right now. So thanks for coming on the podcast. Guys, if you like this, please share, subscribe, you know, do all those things. Tell your friends about Jeff. Tell your friends about our podcast, and let us know what other guests you'd want to have. So, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.
Awesome. Thank you.